how do you put people first in the practical way? And actually, how do you actually build a business that does that in everything it does? This was actually a conversation I had with the guest today, Trudi, some time ago, and we've been trying to get to this interview. And actually, it's actually always good when you have to wait a bit for the interview, because then you think about it and a couple of more times before you do it. I had to look at the questions again, because this is really about what Hospitality Maverick is about. It's about a lot of my journey is actually how do we actually, in a business context, put people first, not just talk about the theory behind it and why it's so great and all the positive effects they have. And that was the kind of conversation we had in our pre-conversation. And therefore, it's with great excitement to welcome you to the show, a true Maverick, Trudi.
Hey, nice to see you.
Tell us a bit about, because there's always a story, and I think it's always important to start with a story, because like why you ended in hospitality and in people, maybe the quick rundown of your journey and where you are today.
Okay, so I've had a crazy paving route into hospitality, well, more into people really. Originally studied media, photography, journalism, because I thought that was my route through. And then I decided traveling and tourism was I hit the bug. So during my studies, I traveled a lot. So I ended up doing Spanish and tourism and travel. And through that, I fell into hotels. So it was a love of mine. As soon as I got through a door of a hotel, that was it. I was, it was a bug. I'm a, self-confessed hotel geek. I say that to everybody. I grew up, I believe, in hotels. So once I started in a very independent hotel, so did a bit of everything. So from reception to making beds to behind the bar, etc. And just everything about it was exciting to me. People, every day was variety. Every person I met made me happy, made me excited. And I loved it. I loved my time there. And then a hotel booking agency approached me. And that was before Expedia's, before, booking.coms, etc. of this world. So, it was corporate business travel. So a company called Hotel Scene, and I was working, and there was an entrepreneur who was just starting out and building his own tech. And he said, come and work there. And there was only 5 people. And I knew from the hotel side, we would be booking hotels for corporate business travel. I'm through that. I was working alongside him and others to build this business, which actually grew considerably. So I started off in operations, ended up, because of my passion for hotels, I ended up selling to corporates and winning business. But I spent most of my time in hotels, and actually, helping corporates put on big conferences, events all over the world, and managing their hotel program. And I basically learned my way around the world by a hotel. A lot of people say they can find their way through cities by pubs. I can do it by hotels, and I'm a real geek in that area. But it just made me so. What I know about hotels is just, I don't know what I don't know about hotels at the moment. But I get excited by them still. I get excited by new openings, etc. So I stayed there for 17 and a half years, in operations, and grew that. And I ended up being director of operations, for their company, after 17 and a half years. And I got to a stage and was like, I love it here. I love everything about this. But am I learning anything now? And am I pushing myself, and am I growing? And the answer was no. So throughout my time at Hotel Scene, I was selling to corporates. So I went and used my skills and became a sales director for a small hotel group that was selling off plans, so before opening, etc. And we filled that hotel, opened very successfully, filled the second hotel. And it was a buzz, and I loved it from a different perspective. But also what it did for me was purposefully looking at different points of business. So going from operations, understanding how to grow a business, what the pieces were, but also how do I sell a business? How do I make us attractive? What's desirable, what's exciting? And everything about the hotel piece made me happy. And then COVID hit and I had, a real point of reflection actually. And I took some time out to study, which I hadn't done because I've been working from when I was 19, basically. And I did my CIPD qualifications, because what actually I felt at that point is, everything about every decision I'd ever made in hospitality was about people, every single thing. So even when I was selling and making people lots of money, my team were the most important thing, and how I motivated them and how we went about it and how we worked. And in operations, how building that business and structuring that business was all about the people, and they stayed. And I'm still very close to an awful lot of people that I was with in that business as well, because of how we looked after, how we treated, how we did things right. And it was a purposeful decision to go into hospitality as a people professional, and find the right business for me, because I wanted to make a difference at that level with that drive around the people piece. So it's a really hard thing to describe, because it is like, whoa, where were you? You know, all of that stuff. But it really, I feel I got quite angry with myself for finding the people piece late in life. And, actually it was always there. It was always there. I was always influencing that. I always made decisions around that piece. I just wasn't seen. It wasn't a structured piece, or it wasn't at that level, or that wasn't my complete role. It was always just attached to a part of my role. But I think I was meant to find it at that stage in my life, because I needed to move like pieces to be better at what if I didn't understand operations the way I understand operations, if I didn't understand sales, because sales and operations tend to have a little bit of friction, you know, and understanding that I don't think I could have entered the people place the way I have, and with the drive and the viewpoint. I mean, everyone does it differently, but I think that I was meant to do it that way in the end.
I think because I've done this exact similar role, but like yourself, operation actually started in marketing, finding out that was not the thing. Then it was operation. And then, you know, I entered into HR because actually I thought I wanted to understand that better, because like there's also a friction between, typically in bigger organization, between people, operation, sales and marketing. Yeah. Lots of friction. Yeah. And the people department just come with all the checklists and all the compliance, and operation just says, no, not possible. You can't sell that product, or we can't roll that out. And sales and marketing is just saying, go. We need more growth. Yeah.
And I was there, you know, I did.
Yeah. And when you then get to the people that you understand much better how you actually get people to do people things. Yeah.
Buy in.
Buy into the people strategy or the people practices. Yeah. Super, super interesting. And then Mollie's.
Yeah.
Then you landed there, and why there, and what is Mollie's all about?
Yeah, so Mollie's was definitely a move that I wanted to make. It was a business that I'd watched. I watched it. It was, like I said, I'm a geek. So I was like, okay, they look exciting. They're motel diner concept. So originally founded by Nick Jones off of Soho House. The concept was a brainchild of his, to reinvent the roadside. So Oxfordshire opened in 2019, Bristol opened 2020. I joined just after Bristol opened, so in between the COVID reopening period. If you've not been, if you haven't been, we are a different, and I know people say that, but our mission is disrupting value hospitality, basically. So better style and quality for all people. So the proposition you get, so when you go into the diner, it's beautifully designed. It feels great. It doesn't feel like, some of the diners you might have seen on, some films in America in your past. It's beautifully designed. The food, you might be getting a burger, but the products are, you know, good. Our suppliers are great. They are presented beautifully. They taste great. So it's all about surprise and delight and quality. around the value lux proposition. So our DNA is be better, be different. So yeah, it's juxtaposed. So we, you can be calm and exciting. So it's an and brand. So it's not something you just go in and go, okay, that's what it is. You constantly feel surprised. So you go in as an affordable product, a value lux product that you're getting GHDs in the rooms and Dyson hair dryers and beautiful mattresses, Hypnos mattresses. So you it feels good, but at an entry level price that you feel is affordable for everybody. But also the main thing is, the people piece is how we're building our business. And, go on TripAdvisor, just if you want to get a little sample of Mollie and Mollie's and what that feels like, look at our website, etc. At mollies.com. But also, if you go on TripAdvisors, people are named, and you get a real piece of that. From sitting in receptions, and I've sat in receptions for 25 years, to actually feel when you're in reception that people have their own personality, people are warm, they have their own regional accents that bring, like mine, very Somerset, that bring a little taste of themselves out, and the individuality of that, and that's embraced. And I think that really resonates with a lot of people that come across our doors. They're really experienced in their locations. So we started there in 2021, have really, we've got a fantastic advocacy for our brand, our people brand. And, we've done things like B Corp and things like that over the last year or so, as well, to try and, really embrace our values that we're different, and we want to really, layer up our business in terms of, our proposition to people.
Yeah, and I guess it's also a bit counterintuitive, the approach you've taken. But I started looking into it before we had our first conversation, was that I actually thought it was like, that looks like a brand must be London based. Yeah, that's what I thought. And actually you've taken more the regional approach, and actually very focusing on being really good at creating something that doesn't exist in those areas. And I know motel is maybe hard to do in London, but that's probably an option somewhere. But again, also that actually means you can use these local areas and activate the brand in some kind of way.
Yeah, and we they're both the A road that the one in Oxfordshire's on is extremely busy, extremely popular. Bristol is on the outskirts of the city centre, so it's Cribbs Causeway way. But now we have just which we'll talk about, I'm sure, but Manchester is opening this year, so that's our first city centre. So there's two pieces to our brand. So there are the roadside and then there's city.
And if we take it from you mentioned the people bit, what is it like your philosophy around people that makes, I guess it as you were saying, it builds and supports the brand, but what is it that the philosophy is, and what is it exactly that you're doing to create that special, place to work? Because you won awards. So if you go on your website, you won lots of awards. So congratulations for that. So early on the journey, yeah? Yeah.
I think every day we learn, no, we are not done. And I think that that's the most important thing to really understand. And I think, it is not mine, it's the whole business. I've worked in businesses where I've not felt that special. I've seen people, you've gone into hotels, I'm sure, or you've gone to restaurants, and people are talking to people not in the nicest way. We've also got a reputational problem, which again we need to do something about in terms of our industry, and about the subservient piece and how that's viewed in the UK, and we should have none of that. I think I've heard people saying that we are this industry that provides amazing experiences. How do you get amazing experiences out of an empty cup? You can't do that. How do you do that? You can't just go, and all of us have got, some of us got intrinsic motivation, some of us haven't, and also, but why would you want to be anywhere other than where you're treated well? I don't know. I wouldn't want to be anywhere other than where I'm treated well. And I know that's not an option for everybody to sit and go, I need to do that. But actually there are businesses out there that are really thinking about the values of the people in their business and what they're looking for. And I think we're, really, and it's about everybody and understanding everybody's different, and you can't please everybody, but you start with being human. Like that's, and it doesn't have to cost a lot. It doesn't have to, those little things, you think about these things that really matter to you, when someone checks in on you, when somebody, says thank you to you, when somebody appreciates what you're doing, when you feel like you've made a difference to somebody, all of those things are just basic things that we should all just be making sure happens in our business. And that's where it starts. It doesn't need to be, I'm provided all these benefits and I'm doing all of this, which you build as you grow a business, obviously. But the basics of the human interaction, if we're expecting our teams to be doing that for making our guests feel exceptional, making our reviews look great, you can't do that unless you're filling that in, giving those people that information and that praise and that security, all of those things that you need in the basic wants, needs matrix of life, those things. And so really it starts there, and it starts simple. And I've been there since 2021. We've built the things as we go, and you make sure it lands before it moves on, because you can just go, put all of these things in, there you go, that's the package, and that makes everybody feel great. Well, first of all, let's ask them. Let's ask them I can come in as a 46-year-old woman and go, I think this is really important to me, and is that important to the majority of our staff? Is that how do they want to be spoken to? What do they want to develop before we start going, all these different layers? So what is the basics? Finding the security piece was really important from the beginning. So making sure that employee voice was something that became an acceptable practice with everybody, but also felt okay for everybody, because you can say, I'm going to do surveys. I'm going to survey them within an inch of our life. And actually to get them to open up is really hard. So if you do what you say at the end, if you actually respond to what they've said, then trust starts to get built. And trust is one of the biggest things at every level we teach in our management programs. So really, without going, there's so many things, but the human piece is just be humans. How do you want to be spoken to? How do you want to be praised? And then sit down and ask them what's important to them. And that relationship piece is so key with the management team to their teams, and the empowering piece, for everybody. And now we have lots of people that tell us an awful lot of things. Some of it we might not want to know, but they tell us, and I think that's a real engagement breaker. And that's a real piece where you can have a foundation to build on, because that you're not going wrong if you keep doing those retro cycles of learning.
That's quite interesting. You said a thing exactly. I think lots of people think you need lots of money, a lot of systems, a lot of benefits, lots of tech, lots of things to build a great place to work, like the baseline of it. And actually it's all about, as you said, it was like building those relationships, actually taking time for these conversations, and accept that you can't serve everybody at the highest level at what they want. And of course you need to do your baseline pay and all that. But actually, if you show as a leadership team from the top down to the bottom that actually you're interested in knowing what people do, it doesn't mean you agree with them.
Yeah,
you're just interested, and you're interested in building relationship with them. You're interested in helping them, giving the tools to do their basic jobs. Then actually you see the trust level would increase significantly. That's like the 20% to give 80 in my learning as well. And often people thought, was that program you did on leadership development or culture piece? I said, no, it was not actually. It's actually that we are good at those, keeping what we promise every day, and pay your salary on time, talk with people when there's problem, and treat it as important as the guest, talking about hospitality. Yeah.
And be present so that you're not just especially with when I came from operations background to, and coming into, no way was I going to be a back office HR person, and
no.
You can't make any difference. You can't understand, you can't gauge, you can't do anything until you really understand it and feel the business and and ask the really awkward questions. Ask those things that you go, oh my God, be brave to ask this question to find out what the answer is. And yeah, you have to, relationships come from trust, don't they? Come from really feeling like people do care. They're not just coming in and asking a question and then going again. They genuinely, that they're there, they're trustworthy. They tell you the truth, even if it's tough. Yeah. And it sounds basic, right? But that's what any relationship's built on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every relationship.
In your experience, when you've had some, building relationship is often, your role will often be with line managers or senior executive. What are the difficult questions that you need to ask, or the awkward question that actually build relationship? Like it's like 10x's when you had that conversation.
Yeah, I think, but it's at different levels. So like we do, and I know some businesses do this. It's all, it's teamed together. So you'll go back to the floor. So I'll work with a housekeeper for the day, and they'll go, "Oh, you can't get that from there because that just doesn't work." And they just put up with it, and you go, "Tell me." Let's it's that whole, isn't it? It's those things that they just feel like they've got to put up with, and you go, "You don't have, if you tell us." So you open up like the ideas at Mollie's, so people get rewarded for coming forward as well, and talking about these things like, "Oh, that PG doesn't work," or you're like, "What? Why does it? Let's sort it." So it's even as basic as that. But then when you come to your one-to-ones and your catch-ups, doing them more frequently, because people, average length of service in hospitality is so short, so you want to make that longer. So you have to meet people at least 6 monthly rather than annually. You can't do the annual piece; it's wrong, and you've left the horses bolted and they've left the business.
Yeah.
So it's about really going, what are you doing well? What do you want to do more of? What do you want to do less of? Really understanding those kind of things. And then when it comes to surveys, asking, would you recommend us? Would you actually recommend us in getting that? Would you, out of 5, what would you tell a friend to come and work for us? Or, are we inclusive? Like, what aren't we doing? What could we do better? Is our communication good? If it's not, tell us what's better for you. And really, really giving them the floor to say, no, well, my line manager's not good, but the business is good, or in my opinion. And then, but just having that forum to be able to go, actually, no, I don't think you're inclusive because this happened to me. And, and actually reading all of that information. But you want people you need to ask them, would they recommend you? That is one of the things. Do you want to grow with us? If you don't want to grow, that's a telling sign. Even if you want to stay the same, do you want, in the same role, do you want to grow and develop with us? If the answer is no, you're doing something wrong. Because people don't feel connected, people don't feel that they have got space for growth. They don't feel that they connect to a business. So it's really looking at those engagement questions. And then also, once you've done the surveys and you've got the results, you've got to go back and put an action plan in with each team, and go, what can we do? Because this is the vibe. We want to change it. And then we tell everybody what everybody, not in detail, but the main topics, of what people are saying. So then they can see other people are being honest. Other people are being open. Other people are talking in paragraphs, all of those kind of stuff. And it's okay. And they're still working here and it's all fine. All of those kind of psychological safety pieces that need to be drawn out. But don't be afraid to, when I've done a project or something, I will always ask and sit there and listen. Did this go well? Did this not go well? And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes, but you can't do better unless you do those things and really have a retro on things and revisit it.
And it's super interesting also because one of the things you talked about when we originally connected was that you talked about as well that, we need to change the perception of hospitality. And we can only do that, I think he said something in line of, by what we do in our businesses every day. That's what's going to talk the loudest. And what is that that sparks that desire in you to change this? And where do you think we are as an industry? What is the challenge in your view?
Yeah, I think about 2 years ago, this is obviously post-COVID when every chef decided to be a Deliveroo driver and things. So I was in a lot of sort of networking events or forums and everybody was like, recruitment is just an absolute nightmare. And where are we getting these people from? Why is it so hard? And then you always look at those hospitality retention. And it wasn't until I was in this role that I really looked at just the industry as a whole, from a different lens, because when you're in operations, you're operating, you're not really going, let's look at this big piece. And I was like, why? And then I did a lot of research and did a project called Project Perception. I was talking to a lot of, took it right the way back to influences. So looking at, the majority of people that are influenced by adults, obviously in that you respect. So teachers, parents. And I did quite a bit of work to look at where our perception came from and where our programming came from. And obviously our program comes from our upbringings and our things that go on around us. But actually, so people weren't necessarily excited in this country to be joining hospitality. It wasn't a natural drive, but there also wasn't a natural push from education, So, and I was talking to Lisa Wilde, who I think you probably heard of her. So, from Missenden, and the number of hospitality schools that are closing down year on year. And it just kind of was like, what are we doing? This industry is something that everybody likes to go to, spend their disposable income, spends their spare time in. They love the experiences. They have great vibes. And so as humans, we're social animals. So these places bring people in and people just want to have great times, but we're not feeding that industry from the back door. So we're not telling people at school that this is a worthwhile industry. And when I spoke to school teachers and I spoke to college, teachers, lecturers, etc., especially at school, no one knew anything about hospitality at all. Nobody knew anything about, but they were told necessarily that it wasn't a desirable place to be. And that was it. So no one spoke about it. So actually it's quite mute. It was quite mute going through the school system. So that needed to change, because how do we feed it if no one mentions it unless you fall into it? That's crazy, So yeah, work. I just was like, this is mad. This is just madness. And beating a drum, and there's other people beating the drum as well, but we have to do more. So we started to go into schools, and getting it was the teacher change was massive. The information that we were given, and we haven't frequently asked questions and excited, and to lots of sweets, which helps in schools. But that it was the teachers that were real, like, okay, well, you can actually earn that much money, can you? If you become a general manager, you can, like, what? No, nobody understood that. And we're doing ourselves a disservice in our education system, basically, because there's an awful lot of people that would probably choose it, and then their craft would be made a lot earlier than having to backfill once they fall into it from a piece. And I'm not saying everybody falls into it, but there's a great majority in the UK that does. So
I think actually it's a global thing, Trudi, because like when I think back on the podcast, when I hear, and then I fell into it. Yeah. And then I fell into it. And it's like, it's just an excuse for, I didn't become, you could almost say some people wish they became computer engineer or a lawyer or investment banker or whatever they wanted to be. And I think actually it's also because I think it's better in the Europe mainland, where I grew up in Denmark, but you can still see it's sliding, and we actually forgot that this is actually creating, an industry that actually, I think there was somebody on the show that talked about actually what is the job of hospitality in the future, is actually to get people to become more human, to actually live life. So give them experience is one thing, but actually also build resilience in understanding that luxury is not everything in life, and helping other people and connecting with people is actually super important. And I think it's one of the few industries actually where good companies actually reward if you're very good at building relationships. Yeah, they do it in sales somewhere, but really it's like where you get rewarded instantly if you're really into the relationship piece you started out with as well, and you're hungry at that. And I think a lot of young people are, sometimes scared away because they told it's a hard and tough place to work with to this, but also it's hard to work in an office. Yeah, that's other elements of that for mental health reasons.
Exactly. And so it's not being given the full picture. Not everybody's given the full picture. And it's, but also some people are not being told anything, which is bizarre for an industry that, contributes so hugely to the economy. And to not want that to grow. And, we can go into all the other things that, like the economy, the government is not doing necessarily to support hospitality, but this is like fundamental. This is crazy, because there are so many people that have got so many wonderful stories that you just and you couldn't write it in any other industry, and people are missing out. So not being given the whole deck of cards to choose from is a bit wrong, really.
And then where do you think like the issue lies besides the government? That's a bit out of our control. I often say, well, what can we do from leadership teams, our boardrooms? What kind of roles do we play in this? Yeah.
I think it's definitely a multi-pronged approach. So internally, we've got to be better. We've got to be, and that obviously when all of our budgets are being cut, when all of our, when minimum wage hikes up and all that kind of stuff is tougher. But if we make those paces, at the moment we're being fed things like shouty chefs on the TV. We're being just, you see things that, you go, I don't want my child to be shouted at when they get, there's all of that, but that's not everything. That's not, and in fact, that's very rare these days that any of that happens. So it's about us making sure that when we're in our businesses, things are acceptable and things are not acceptable practices. We also develop and look after and nurture, talent. That's really important to understand what somebody wants to do and then grow it and work with them for their career path, because it's changing the perception of hospitality as a career path. And we can only do that from the inside. And with boardrooms, really thinking about that people piece, people have to have a seat around the table at the boardroom, because, that's how we're going to be successful in our businesses. If we really understand the power of people in your business and how we look after them, and how we grow them and what people are really wanting, because it can't just be the money every day that we all look at. We got to look at all of those metrics, which include the people piece.
Yeah, and I guess it's that balance between, the money, the customer experience and the employee experience, and that balance that has to be there, and we all know if we don't make a profit, none of great employee and customer experience can't happen, but we need to find a route to the money where we keep humanity and we act like humans. Yeah, humans first. Can you give an example on how you guys do? Because winning awards and actually so early in the journey, you say you're 3 sites now. What is it that you think that maybe you can use some practical example from your new opening that's coming up? Because the openings is always where you test your systems. Yeah. How good are they actually working and what kind of impact do they have on the people that join us, and how do we make them feel part of the culture?
Yeah. So it's been, like I said, it's been a journey. So Oxford, Bristol, I joined sort of mid their journeys as well. So putting structure in, is important. So whilst, we're all human, people need to know what it feels like. What's the status quo, because that's when you feel safe, right? If you understand where you are, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, how I grow, how I do. So it's making all of that information widely available for our guys and building that information. And every day we build more, that's what we are, because we're that early in the journey. But we've been waiting for Manchester to open for a while. It's been, we've been talking about it for 4 years. So
wow.
Everything that we've been doing in Oxford and Bristol is to make sure that we are not backfilling in Manchester. So it's about getting all of our ducks in a row, as many ducks as you can. There'll always be another duck that runs off, but it's really making sure that from the beginning, we have a really great induction. We have an understanding of, everything about our journey, what we're all about, our values, our mission, so people feel connected from the very beginning, or not from the very beginning. You sign up to that. But also, even our recruitment has evolved so dramatically to make sure that we get people in that want to be there, want to grow, want to develop, have potential to be part of this growing business. So it becomes, because there are people that don't want to be in hospitality, and that's okay. But it's understanding that from an early position and really getting that team right, from the beginning, giving them the best start in life. And that's the same with children and everything, isn't it? Everybody who gets all the best start in life actually has a much easier time. But making sure that they all start together as well. And I know that when you grow and if we're recruiting, if we recruit Oxford, etc., but trying to get groups of people to start together as well. So they've got, connection, they've got, allies, they've got alignment, they've got people that are in the same boat as them. It's all of those things. And, it's making sure that we give everybody everything, and then the continuation of support and understanding where to go when they need something or where to find everything. So they're not just trying to look around and work it out for themselves. They have got things handed to them so that then they can just be people-centric and customer-centric, and then everything else. So it's all about team and customer. That's all we want them to really concentrate on for a good period of time, and everything else should be supported. We don't have a head office, we have a support team, so we should be giving them reports that they need to have. We need to be going in and helping them with their people stuff and their HR and their training and their P&Ls, and giving them all those different support that they need so they can just concentrate on those really human-centric pieces, because that's what hospitality is about right now, and should always be about, and so it's making sure that they're okay, and then they can take more as they go when they're ready, or if they want it to take more. But really and truly, it's about giving them the best start in life and not just chucking them in.
I think I really love what you talked about as well, the importance that everybody that comes aboard understand, the clarity of direction and the purpose behind Mollie's and why we're here, and actually telling them very clearly, this is your job. Yeah. This is what we need you to do, focusing on your teammates and your customers. And actually that's all the things we are giving you is actually to help you do that. Yeah. And that's the tools we are building the whole onboarding process on. How do you then really practical, let's say if you're a new starter, what are the touch points you do? Like if you just skip them practical, what are the typical touch points you will see in that journey as you onboard it?
So from an HR perspective or from
an employee perspective, what is it that I'm going to meet on this journey to feel that I can actually go and do my job really well?
Yeah. So you get the MD to start with. So the MD will do a full, from his base core of how he feels about Mollie's and what he's trying to achieve and what we're trying to achieve as a team, and really understanding that. And then you meet every supporting person as well throughout your journey. So it's a 6-week program. So it's really intense. So the first 4 weeks are very intense. So you've got everything from your compliance pieces, which are a little bit boring, to really like our mission, our values, our leadership behaviors that are expected. But leadership behaviors aren't just from leaders, they're from how we are in the business, how we all lead. So it's not just something that you go, okay, that's my manager, that's how they lead. No, everybody shows up and leads every day. So we talk about like our sites and the difference between Oxford, Bristol, Manchester. So, and the people that are involved in those pieces as well, and the structure, to really understand the structure of, we're quite a linear, flat structure, but on sites, they really need to understand who are their people, who are their points of contact, who are their go-tos, who can support it, but also where they can find all the documentation. So we've got a communications platform that everybody can, there's chat on there, there's news feed, there's all the documentations, etc. And then there's a training platform, and we go through all of that as well as like this week they're out doing SWOT analysis. So they're out trying different venues in Manchester to do some drinks and do some, so each department's got a different task that they're doing. But then there's also a lot of fun that happens, so it's broken up by, we have beanbag, cornhole tossing and string and tennis balls, and seeing how we can get, so every day there's a different energizer, team building, so that everybody comes together and understands that there's fun involved in it as well. So it's not just we're talking at you. But those sessions also are like really interactive. So we want people to have employee voice from the very beginning. So that's the status quo, and everybody has a voice, everybody has questions, but also we have awards and things throughout that as well, and who's displaying values and that throughout our process. So it's really, and then we've got food prep, cocktail making, coffee making, so everybody gets everything basically.
And I was thinking, I really love that piece where you actually go out together. You said like those competitors visits, yeah? And how many does actually do that and think, oh, well, that's they don't really know that. But actually, if you want them to create the best experience for customers, you need to know this is the baseline. This is what we're up against. Yeah.
What was good? What wasn't good? What could you take from that learning piece into your daily life as well? I think it's really important as well. There's quite a lot of young people that may have, they come as a receptionist or they've come as a front of house, and some of them might not have, that might be their first job as well. So really understanding the industry and industry benchmarks is a really important piece, I think. So just, some people may not have stayed in a hotel before. Some people may not have eaten out very regularly. And to really bring that into the fore is a super important piece of learning.
What is it that makes you really excited right now about where you are on the journey when it comes, especially now you're responsible for people? It'd be really interesting to hear what is that makes you really excited, because you said as well, you're on different stages of the journey. You have to do different things in the business. But like with site number 3 coming up, and what is that the exciting bit is here? Yeah.
So, this is, Manchester is everything to us all right now. And we've got these with other sites that are operating beautifully well, great GMs. Both of them are female in our other GMs, which is quite exciting as well. And so Manchester is just something that we're all going, we cannot wait. It's so beautiful. And Hannah's just been, everybody has been just thinking about Manchester for 4 years. Like, to really actually almost touch that now is so exciting. The team are crazy good. Like, the first days of those inductions was so fun. It's a real buzz. And just seeing everybody and meet, it's all very real and very, everybody's, all the pieces of the puzzles are just coming together. So this is, for me right now, I just want that to land really well. I want the team to be really happy. I want the reviews to be amazing, and all of it come to fruition. And they're going to be curveballs thrown at us left, right and centre. There always is with hospitality. Yeah. Right? But it's got so much potential, and seeing all those faces, and excitement is just really cool, because that there'll be people amongst them that are going to go on and be our future GMs. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, I'm just, the moment, that's all I can think about. That's as far as my sort of sphere of influence is. And then once Manchester's done, there's probably something else, I don't know, that's going to really excite me. But Edinburgh's going to follow that as well. So
okay, well then here you go. Yeah. And therefore I loved also how you ended on actually what there's some people within this group that's going to stay for a very long time, and that's quite an exciting way to look at it, because also it's a new city. Yeah. So therefore it will not be somebody and maybe there will be somebody in there we didn't even expect. Yeah. Well, I think that's how I always loved about, one of the things I love about, isn't it exciting? You're going to have more revenue. I said, no, it's quite exciting about what kind of talent are we actually getting into the business, and how can we use that to make the business better? I always said, because this is an opportunity to hire people you would never ever meet because they live somewhere else in the business.
But you also and it sounds, I don't know if this is typically HR or just being human, but just those people that, at the end of each day, they just stay to help you clean up, and then they say thank you, and all of that kind of stuff. And you just think there's just a different breed of people that you find in hospitality. Yeah. That you probably don't. You'd have to search quite high and low in other industries to find the people that just have kindness and care and empathy, and that kind of stuff goes, okay, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. We've got these people amongst us.
Yeah. What is the one question, you always never have enough time. That's the problem. Yeah. So I always have this question. What is the one question you wished I'd asked you? What would it be, and what would you have answered?
Oh, goodness. I think more about like people stepping into like their first HR people leadership role, and like what advice probably, or what advice I would give them, and just how just changing the perception of HR as well, is because we often get a bad rap, and we've got to do some difficult stuff and all that kind of stuff. So, and I don't know how, in terms of hospitality, I would just immerse yourself so deeply in a business, really spend time in every department, and and get to know how it all ticks. And what you also get from that is the energy. You get the energy that you can just like, you have to go away and do some real headspace things a lot of the time to really do, strategy and really understand how you're going to take it. And there's a lot of thought and also things you deal with that just other people wouldn't have to deal with that are really heavy. And I would just, make sure you know where you go to get your energy. Make sure you know, and you can plug yourself in hospitality spaces really easily with people, because it does. Every time I go into site, I get very little work done that is computer-based work. But I just feel so fortunate, blessed, and it gives me a real focus to go back and really do the people piece and really structure it and understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, and also what's making a difference from the people that I'm hearing from on a daily basis. And that is what I would say to anybody who was going into an HR leadership role, like just plug yourself in, know where to plug yourself in, but also just immerse yourself in everybody's department and don't stay in your little box that is just people, because it just will help you. It will just help you with all the hard bits as well as understanding if you're doing good things as well.
Yeah, and I love that because it brings you back to the relationship building again. Yeah. Your job is to go out there and build the relationship so you can actually, when you get to your strategy piece and your systems and processes you need to implement to put that strategy to piece into work, it will mean that you have actually allies that actually want to help you, make that happen. Leaders that actually is going to take your tools and do something with it, because she was actually very good at asking me questions and actually helped me with something didn't know about. Actually, often you can help people as you take those journeys around. And that's why lots of people say when they go to their front line, oh, well, sometimes I only go once a week because I get interrupted. But that's exactly what you need to feed the strategy of changing. Yeah.
It just makes such a difference. It really does. It just, it does pump. It gives me like real energy to be able to go back and go, okay, cool. Know what I'm doing now.
And also checking actually what I have done are working. And what is the perception about? Yeah. And then what is the perception about this? Yeah. Does this actually make a difference? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough one for you, I think, from the intro you made about your journey in hotels. But what has been your best hospitality moment ever? And what was it and why?
I love just the Houdini moments that hospitality can have. So literally the things people can just make happen. So, from opening a hotel from no business at all to it being singing, dancing, everybody's okay, and it just comes off because hospitality people just make things happen. So those kind of things, but also like just from my perspective, seeing somebody that used to be in front of house now be a GM like that. I don't think you can, I think that's just phenomenal that you can look back and go, all the work that they did for all those people, and they've just literally made their own career because of everything they've done for other people. And like that makes me like, that's everything.
What is the best place to connect with you if you want to learn more about the work you're doing at Mollie's, and where should people go to find out more about Mollie's and what's going to happen in Manchester? I think that's very
so
relevant.
There's lots of news about Manchester coming. You'll be hopefully all be able to hear about Manchester. But yeah, LinkedIn's the best way to find me. I'm a LinkedIn communicator. So but also follow Mollie's on mollies.com as well, but also on their Instagram. It's really cool, their Instagram and their website and obviously LinkedIn as well. So yeah, check us out.
We'll throw all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Trudi, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and your learnings. I wish you and the team good luck with the not just one opening in Manchester, but also Edinburgh, and all the energy you need to get that done well.
Thank you. Come and see us.